The war on the desert colony was finally over. The battlefield was silent now. Filled with smoke and broken machines, Captain Elias stood among the soldiers, his armor still marked with burns and dust. He was a human fighter, brave and clever. The kind of man people followed even in hopeless times. Everyone said he had saved the colony. Everyone said the enemy would have one if not for him. The commander of the colony forces, a tall man with cold eyes, walked toward him. In his hand was not a medal, not a chest of gold, but a chain. And at the end of that chain was a woman. She was not human, not like anyone Elias had seen before. Her hair shone silver under the red sun. Her skin had a faint glow. Her eyes were like burning stars. But she was chained, her wrists locked in iron cuffs that hummed with strange energy. The commander smiled, a smile that had no warmth. "You fought well, Captain," the commander said, "as a reward. The spoils of war belong to you. Take her. She is yours now." The crowd of soldiers shouted and cheered. Some laughed, some whistled. They treated it like a joke, like giving away a pet or a trophy, but Elias felt no joy. He felt a weight in his chest. He looked at the alien woman, standing tall even in chains, her head held high, though her arms shook with weakness. There was no fear in her eyes, only anger, and something deeper, something that felt like a warning. Elias wanted to refuse. He wanted to say this was wrong, but the soldiers were watching. The commander was watching. If he said no, it would insult the men who had fought beside him. It would insult the commander who had the power to end his career. So Elias nodded, though his heart was heavy. The chain was pushed into his hand, and the alien woman was dragged closer. Her name was not spoken. No one asked who she was. To them, she was just the reward. But when Elias touched the chain, the woman lifted her head and stared into his eyes. Her lips moved, and in a voice so low that only he could hear, she whispered, "Free me, or we both die." Elias froze, his breath caught. The soldiers around him did not hear it. They kept cheering. The commander clapped him on the shoulder and walked away, proud of the gift he had given. But Elias could not move, could not speak. The words of the alien burned in his mind. "Free me, or we both die." Later, as the celebration ended, Elias guided her through the camp. The chain rattled with every step, and men watched with greedy eyes. Some whispered ugly jokes. Some asked if he would sell her. Elias ignored them all, his jaw tight. He felt her presence beside him like a fire that could not be tamed. She never lowered her eyes, never begged, never spoke again. But Elias felt she was waiting, watching him, testing him. When they reached his ship, he led her inside. The door closed, shutting out the noise of the camp for the first time since receiving her. They were alone. He wanted to ask her questions, wanted to demand answers, but before he could speak, she moved closer. Her chains dragging across the metal floor. She leaned near him, her voice soft but sharp. "You think they gave you a gift," she said. Her words were clear, though her accent was strange. "They gave you a curse. These chains do not bind. Only me, they bind you now as well." Elias stepped back, his hand moving to the gun at his belt. "Speak sense," he said. "What are you?" The alien woman tilted her head, her silver hair falling across her face. Her burning eyes locked on his. "My name is Lyra," she said, "and if you do not free me soon, you will die with me." The room fell silent. Only the faint hum of the ship's engine filled the air. Elias felt his skin crawl. He wanted to believe she was lying, wanted to believe she was only trying to scare him. But something inside him whispered the truth. She was not lying. The chains on her wrists glowed faintly, pulsing with a rhythm, almost like a heartbeat. And in that glow, Elias felt a cold pain rising in his own chest, a slow, creeping weight. Pressing against his heart, he gasped and staggered back. Lyra's eyes softened for the first time. "You see now," she said, "our lives are tied. Your war prize is a chain for both of us. Free me, Captain, or watch yourself fade into nothing." Elias's hand trembled. The gun at his side felt useless. His mind raced. Was this real, or some trick? The commander's smile, the soldiers' cheers. The strange hum of the chain. Suddenly, everything felt like a trap, and Elias realized with dread that his reward might be the beginning of his greatest battle yet. Cliffhanger ending. He stared at the glowing chains, his chest still aching if she was telling the truth. Then every moment he hesitated brought him closer to death, and yet, freeing her might be even more dangerous. The ship rose from the desert colony. Leaving smoke and fire behind, Captain Elias sat in the pilot's seat, his eyes fixed on the stars ahead. Beside him, still chained, sat Lyra, the alien woman who had warned him of death. She was silent now, her face calm but unreadable. The chains around her wrists glowed faintly, the strange hum filling the small ship with a cold rhythm. Elias wanted to ask questions, wanted to demand the truth, but every time he opened his mouth, he found no words. What could he even ask? Who are you? What are you? Why am I dying because of you? The silence pressed down on him like heavy stone. Lyra only stared at the stars, her eyes glowing faint gold, like twin suns hidden in shadow. Hours passed. The ship drifted through the quiet void. Elias checked the systems, checked the weapons. Anything to keep his mind busy, but always his eyes returned to her. She did not move, did not eat, did not sleep. It was as if she was carved from living stone, chained to his side at night. When the lights dimmed and the stars outside grew brighter, Elias heard it, a sound that slipped into the ship like a whisper. At first, he thought it was static, or the hum of the engine. But no, it was too soft, too human. It was the sound of someone crying. He rose from his bed, his hand on the gun at his side. The sound came from the cargo bay where Lyra was kept. He walked slowly through the narrow halls, the ship creaking around him. When he reached the bay, the sound stopped. Lyra sat where he had left her, chains still glowing. Her back straight, her eyes closed. But he was sure she had been crying. "Was that you?" Elias asked, his voice sharp. Her eyes opened slowly, glowing in the half-dark. "I do not cry," she said, her voice calm. "Not anymore." Elias frowned, but said nothing. He turned to leave. But then he heard something else, a low murmur, like words in a language he did not know. When he turned back, Lyra's lips were moving, whispering. The sound was not like human speech, not like any language he had heard in the colonies. It was soft, like singing, but the air around her seemed to thrum with power. The chains glowed brighter. The hum in the ship grew louder. "Stop that," Elias said, stepping closer, his hand tight on his gun. Lyra opened her eyes, and the whisper ended. "You fear what you do not understand," she said, "and yet you are already bound to it." Elias felt his chest ache again. The same sharp pain from before. He stumbled, his breath catching. Lyra's face softened. "Just for a moment, I could ease it," she said. "If you would let me." Elias forced himself upright, his jaw set. "You speak in riddles," he said. "You say I will die. You say the chains bind me to a yet. You give no proof." Lyra tilted her head, her eyes unblinking. "You already feel the proof," she said quietly. "The ache in your chest, the heaviness in your bones, that is the chain reaching for you." She raised her bound hands slowly, the cuffs sparking. "Faint light, you think these are for me alone? They are not. They are for both of us." Elias stepped back, unease curling in his gut. She was too calm, too certain. He wanted to believe she was lying, but his body told him otherwise. The pain had started when he first touched the chain, and it grew stronger every hour. Still, He could not let her see his fear. "Why me?" he asked, his voice low. "Why give you to me? Why not keep you locked away?" Lyra's eyes darkened, the glow in them flickering like fire. "Because they fear me," she said, "but they cannot kill me. The chains do not allow it. So instead, they pass me on, a curse disguised as reward, and now, you are the next fool." To carry it, her words sank into him like knives. Elias clenched his fists. His thoughts racing. If she spoke the truth, then he had been tricked. The commander had known. The so-called reward was not honor, it was poison. And yet, when Elias looked at her, he did not see poison. He saw strength and sadness buried. Deep beneath anger, the days that followed were filled with silence. Lyra spoke only when she wished, and when she did, her words carried weight. Sometimes she whispered strange chants when she thought Elias was not listening. Sometimes he caught her watching him, her golden eyes unblinking. He tried to ignore her, but he could not. Her presence was too strong, too heavy. She was not just a prisoner, she was something greater, something dangerous. One night, as Elias sat alone in the cockpit, the alarm blared. He looked to the radar. 2 ships were approaching fast. Unknown signals, weapons armed, pirates, or worse, bounty hunters. Elias cursed under his breath and armed the defenses. But before he could act, Lyra appeared behind him, silent as shadow. Her chains glowed brighter than ever. Casting strange light across the cockpit, "They are not here for you," she said. Softly, her eyes locked on the approaching ships. "They are here for me." The enemy ships fired first, beams of red light streaking across the void. Elias pulled the ship hard to the side, engines roaring, the small vessel shuddering under the hit. Warning lights flashed on the console, alarms screamed in his ears. He gritted his teeth and fired back, his cannons spitting bursts of fire. One enemy ship veered away, but the other pressed closer, faster, hungrier. Through the chaos, Lyra stood calm, her chains glowing like molten metal. She watched the fight with sharp eyes, not afraid, not even tense. "They will not stop," she said softly, almost to herself. "They know who I am." Elias slammed. Another switch, missiles locking onto the closer ship. The blast tore through its wing, sending it spinning for a moment. Relief rushed through him until he saw the second ship returning. Stronger, he cursed, his knuckles white on the controls. Then it happened. Lyra raised her chained hands, and the air inside the cockpit changed. The hum of the chains grew louder, filling every corner of the ship. Her eyes glowed bright, golden fire burning inside them. A sudden wave of force shot from her body, not touching Elias, not touching the ship, but outside. The attacking vessel reeled, its weapons going dark. In seconds, the ship lost control, spinning into the void, vanishing in silence. Elias stared at her, his mouth dry. He had seen weapons of war. He had seen machines of death. But he had never seen raw power like this. Lyra lowered her hands slowly, her breath steady, her chains still glowing. "They will send more," she said, her voice quiet. "They always send more." Elias swallowed hard. "What did you just do?" he demanded. Lyra turned her gaze to him, calm and sharp. "I bent their machines," she said, "even chained. I still have strength." He shook his head, not wanting to believe it. But the truth was, there he had seen her destroy a ship without firing a shot. "What are you?" Elias asked, his voice low. Lyra looked at her glowing chains, her face unreadable. "I am what they fear," she said, "and what they cannot kill." Hours passed after the battle, silence heavy in the small ship. Elias kept his eyes on the stars, but his mind replayed what he had seen. Finally, he turned to her, his voice harsh with frustration. "No more riddles. Tell me the truth." Lyra tilted her head, her silver hair falling like light across her shoulders. You want truth. Captain, she said, then listen, these chains are not simple metal. They are living binds. Forged in ancient wars, they hold my power. They hold my life. But when you touched them, they bound you too. Ilias's chest tightened at her words. The dull ache returning, he pressed a hand against his heart. His breath uneven. Lyra's eyes softened. Just for a moment, you feel it, she said gently. The slow weight, the creeping cold. That is the chain feeding on you. Elias clenched his fists. You expect me to believe I am cursed because of touching a chain? Lyra's gaze sharpened. Not cursed, she said, connected. Your life thread now coils with mine. If I die, you die. If the chain consumes me, it consumes you. That is why they gave me to you so my death would not be theirs to carry. Her words struck deep. Elias wanted to deny them, wanted to believe it was a lie, but the pain in his chest told him otherwise. And worse, he remembered the commander's smile. The soldiers' cheers. They had known. They had given him not a prize, but a burden meant to kill him. He sat down heavily, his mind spinning. So I free you, he said, and the chain is broken. Lyra shook her head slowly. No, it is not so simple. If the chains are broken wrongly, the power inside them will burn us both to ash. The only way is the old way. The way my people once used before they were betrayed. Elias leaned forward, his voice sharp. What way? Lyra looked at him, her golden eyes steady. Bonding, she said, the word heavy with meaning. A link of life deeper than chains. A union of will. Only then can the binds be undone safely. Elias froze, his breath caught. He understood what she meant: marriage, a binding beyond simple promise. He shook his head quickly. This is madness. I don't even know you. Lyra's face remained calm, but her eyes flashed with something fierce. You will know me, Captain, or you will die. The ship drifted through the endless stars. Silence, thick between them. Elias stared out into the void, his thoughts tangled with fear and disbelief. Was this fate? Was this some cruel trick of war? He had wanted nothing but peace after the battle, and instead he had been given a chain, a woman, and a death sentence tied to her life. But the image of her power burned in his mind, the way she had crushed. Ship with nothing but her chained hands, the way her words rang true, no matter how much he wished to deny them. Elias realized something that chilled him deeper than the chains. If she was right, if their lives were truly tied, then his only hope of survival was bound to hers. The stars outside the cockpit glimmered cold and distant. Elias tried to steady his breathing, but his chest still ached from the invisible weight of the chains. Every hour the pain grew worse, like invisible fingers pressing against his ribs. He refused to show weakness, not in front of Lyra, but inside. He knew she was right. The chains were eating away at him. Lyra sat silently in the co-pilot seat, her wrists still bound. The glow of the cuffs, faint but constant, her golden eyes. Never blinked, always watching the stars as if searching for something beyond them. Elias hated the silence, hated the way she seemed to know more about his body than he did. Finally, he broke the stillness. You said they will send more, he muttered. Who are they exactly? Lyra did not turn her head. The hunters, she said, her voice low. Men who sell lives, men who would chain me again. They follow the pull of my energy like wolves on blood. Elias gripped the controls tighter. His jaw set. He had fought wars, faced enemies with guns and ships. But what she described was different. A hunt that never ended. And now he was caught in it, bound to her fate whether he wished it or not. The ship's radar blinked red. A soft alarm chimed. Elias leaned forward, his stomach sinking. 3 small ships were closing in, fast. Not pirates this time. Not raiders. These moved in formation. Sharp and precise bounty hunters. They've found us, Elias whispered. Lyra closed her eyes. Her voice almost like a sigh. They always do. The enemy ships fired first. Streaks of light slamming across the void. The hull rattled, sparks jumped from the cockpit panels. Elias cursed and pulled hard on the controls, weaving between. Bursts of fire, his cannons spat back, but the hunters were skilled. Dodging with ease, he was good, but they were better. One hunter's ship cut across his path, locking weapons on his flank before Elias could move. Lyra stood, her chains glowing. Brighter, sit down. He barked, but she ignored him. She raised her hands. And the air filled with a low hum. The enemy ship suddenly froze, its engines sputtering. Then, with a scream of metal, the ship ripped apart, shredded like paper. Elias stared in shock. His heart racing, she had done it again, destroyed a ship without firing a single weapon. But even as the wreckage drifted away, two more hunters closed in. One struck the side of the hull, alarms blaring. Warning lights flashing red. Hold them. Back. Elias shouted, wrestling with the controls. Lyra's face was calm, but her chains sparked violently as she reached for more power. The glow spread across her arms into her chest, her whole body trembling with force. For a heartbeat, Elias thought. She might burn herself alive. Then a wave of light burst from her, shaking the ship. The hunters' guns went dark. Their ship spinning out of control. Elias breathed hard, sweat on his brow. But Lyra staggered, falling against the seat. Her breath shallow, the chains pulsed with red heat. Smoke curling from the cuffs. Elias rushed to her side, grabbing her. Arm, what's happening? He demanded. Her eyes fluttered open, weak but steady. The chains? They punish me when I use too much, she whispered. They feed and they grow stronger each time. Elias looked down at the glowing cuffs, the energy burning like fire under her skin. And in that moment, he felt it to pain stabbing into his chest. Sharp and hot, he gasped, clutching his ribs, his knees buckling. The connection he was sharing the punishment. Lyra reached for him, her chained hand trembling. You see now, she said softly, we are one chain. If I suffer, you suffer. If I fall, you fall. Elias staggered back. His mind reeling, the hunters outside had been driven off. But the battle was far from over. The true enemy was not the ships, not the hunters, it was the chains themselves. Every time she used her power, the binds grew hungrier, feeding not only on her, but on him as well. He slammed a fist against the console, his voice breaking. Damn it! How do I fight something I can't even see? Lyra looked at him, her eyes calm despite her weakness. You do not fight it alone, she said. You fight it with me, or you die with me. The words struck deep. Elias wanted to deny her, to throw her out the airlock to free himself of this curse. But he knew he could not. The ache in his chest was proof he was already tied too deeply. Silence fell between them, broken only by the soft hum of the chains. Lyra leaned back, her breath returning slowly. Her eyes met his, steady, unblinking. They will send more, she whispered. Stronger ones, and next time, I may not be able to stop them alone. Elias turned back to the stars, his jaw tight. For the first time, he realized this was no simple mission, no random reward. He had been pulled into a war far older and darker than any he had fought before. And the woman chained beside him was not just a prisoner, she was the key to survival or to doom. The 5 hunter ships closed in like shadows, their engines glowing red against the dark. Elias's hands moved quickly over the controls. Sweat on his brow, his small ship was tough, but not tough enough to fight 5 at once. He knew it, and Lyra knew it too. She sat chained in the co-pilot seat, her golden eyes locked on the hunters, her cuffs glowing faintly. "They will not stop," she said softly, her voice calm even as alarms screamed. "They cannot stop. I am too valuable." Elias gritted his teeth, pulling the ship into a dive. Lasers streaking past the hull. "Valuable," he growled. "To who?" Lyra's eyes flickered, her face unreadable. "To everyone," she said. "And to no one. They want my blood, my power, my death, each for their own reasons. But the truth is, the same Mai cannot be free, and neither can you." The words struck hard, but there was no time to demand more. The hunters fired again, one beam tearing across the side of the ship. Sparks flying from the panels. Elias cursed, fighting to keep control. The hunters circled, wolves toying with their prey. Then Lyra leaned forward, her chains glowing brighter. Her eyes burned like suns as she whispered in her strange tongue. The air inside the cockpit grew heavy. The hum of the chains louder, sharper. "Wait." Elias barked, fear rising in him, but she ignored him, her voice growing stronger. The cuffs sparking light. Suddenly, the hunter ships faltered, their weapons going dark, one after another. They spun out of formation, colliding, bursting into fire. The stars lit up with wreckage, burning bright, then fading into dust. In moments, the hunters were gone, destroyed without a shot from Elias's ship. The silence that followed was heavy, broken only by the soft groan of the hull. Elias stared at her, his chest aching. "What are you?" he whispered, his voice trembling. Lyra lowered her hands, the chains pulsing red, smoke curling from the cuffs. Her breath came shallow, her face pale. Finally, she spoke, her voice heavy with sorrow. "You wish to know the truth, Captain?" she said. "Then hear it. I am not a slave. I am not a prize. I am the last of my kind. My people once ruled the stars. We shaped the galaxies. We bent the void to our will, but we were betrayed. We were bound in living chains, each one forged. To lock away our power, one by one, my people were hunted, captured, destroyed." Elias froze, her words sinking deep into him. "You mean? You're the last of an entire race?" he asked. Lyra nodded slowly, her golden eyes glowing with grief. "Yes, the chains keep me alive. But they also cage me. They pass me from hand to hand. Each new master cursed by the same binds, until both slave and master wither away. That is what they gave you, Captain, not a reward, but a death sentence." Elias staggered back. His breath caught the commander's smile. The soldiers' cheers. It all made sense now. They had not honored him. They had doomed him. His fists clenched, rage burning inside him. "All this time," he growled. "They knew. They used me." Lyra looked at him, her voice soft. "They used us both, Captain, but you are different. Most men would see me as a weapon, or as property. Yet you hesitate. You question. That is why I tell you this truth." Elias shook his head, disbelief clouding him. "But why me? Why give you to me?" Lyra's gaze sharpened, her chains glowing brighter. "Because the chains chose you," she said quietly. "They do not bind at random. They bind to those with strength, to those who can endure. You are their next vessel, their next victim. Unless—" her words trailed off, heavy with meaning. "Unless, what?" Elias demanded, his voice sharp. Lyra met his eyes, steady and unflinching. "Unless you bond with me," she said, her tone calm but final. "Only then can the chains be broken safely. Only then can we both live." The air grew heavy between them, Elias's chest tightening. Bond with her. Become her mate. Tie his life to hers forever. The thought sent a chill down his spine. "This is madness," he whispered. "I don't even know you." Lyra's golden eyes burned brighter. "You will know me," she said firmly. "Or you will die. That is the truth no one told you, the forbidden truth they feared to speak. Elias turned away, his mind spinning. Every part of him wanted to deny it. Wanted to believe there was another way, but the ache in his chest was growing worse. The cold weight spreading through his veins. His time was running out. Lyra watched him quietly, her face calm, but her eyes carrying sorrow. "You must decide soon," she said softly. "The chain hungers. It does not wait. Every hour, it takes more from us both." Elias slammed a fist on the console, rage and fear boiling inside him. He had fought wars, faced death countless times, but never had he been trapped in a battle he could not win with guns or steel. This war was different. This war was inside him, and the only ally he had was the chained woman who had turned his life into a curse. The silence inside the ship was heavy, almost crushing. Elias sat in the pilot's chair, staring at the endless stars, his fists clenched so tight his knuckles turned white. Behind him, Lyra sat chained, her golden eyes watching him with calm patience. Her words still burned inside his mind, "Bond with me or die." He had fought wars, commanded men, made decisions that cost lives, but this was different. This was personal. This was his own soul being weighed. Every beat of his heart came with pain now. Sharp and cold, the chains were feeding on him, taking pieces of his strength, little by little, and he knew Lyra felt it too. Her breaths shallow, her skin pale. They were both prisoners of the same curse. Finally, Elias broke the silence. His voice rough. "You're asking me to trust you, but why should I? You've given me nothing but riddles, warnings, and half-truths. How do I know this isn't just another trap?" Lyra tilted her head, her silver hair glowing faint in the cockpit light. "You do not know," she said simply. "Trust is always a leap. But I have told you more than I told any other master before you. That alone should mean something." Elias turned sharply, his eyes narrowing. "Master?" he repeated, his voice sharp. Lyra's gaze softened. "That is what they call themselves," she said. "Men who owned the chain, men who thought I was theirs to command. They all died, Captain. The chain took them one by one. You are different. You hesitate, you doubt. You ask questions. That is why the choice is yours alone." Elias leaned back, his chest heavy. A part of him wanted to believe her, wanted to see her as more than a curse. But another part screamed caution, screamed danger. She was powerful, too powerful. Bonding with her might save his life. End it faster. Lyra's voice grew softer, almost gentle. "Do you think I want this?" she asked. "Do you think I wish to bind myself to a human stranger? My people were proud, free. We chose our bonds. We chose our mates. Now the chains leave me no choice if I do not bond. I die, and if I die, you die." Her words carried pain. Not anger, not manipulation, for the first time. Elias saw not just her strength, but her sorrow. A woman who had lost her people, her freedom, her past, and yet still held her head high. Even in chains, Elias rubbed his temples, his breath ragged. "What does it even mean, this bond?" he asked finally. Lyra's golden eyes glowed faint, steady. "It means our lives are tied deeper than the chain. It means your heart beats with mine. It means my strength becomes yours and your will becomes mine. We share pain, we share power. We share fate. It is dangerous, but it is the only way." Elias stared at her, his chest pounding. Part of him felt fear, part of him felt anger. But another part deep inside felt something else, something he did not want to admit, a pull, a connection. Like the chain was not only binding his life, but pulling his soul closer to hers. He stood suddenly, pacing the cockpit, his voice breaking with frustration. "This is madness. I should throw you out the airlock. I should cut the chain. I should." His words stopped as pain stabbed through his chest. Sharp and burning, he fell against the console. Gasping, Lyra stood quickly, her chains rattling. "Enough," she cried, her voice fierce. "Every moment you delay, the chain grows stronger. Can you not feel it? It feeds on your anger, on your doubt. It will consume you before you ever make your choice." Elias looked up at her, sweat dripping down his face. Her eyes were blazing now, not with sorrow, not with anger, but with something raw, something human. "Do not fear me," she whispered, her voice trembling. "Fear the chain. Fear what will happen if you refuse. Captain, I do not want to be your death." The words struck deep, cutting through his resistance. He saw her then not as an enemy, not as a curse, but as a woman standing on the edge of the same cliff he was standing on. They were both trapped, both hunted, both marked for death unless they chose each other. His chest still ached, but slowly he rose. His breathing steadying, he stared into her golden eyes, silence stretching. Between them, finally, he spoke, his voice low. "If I do this, if I bond with you, there's no turning back, is there?" Lyra shook her head, her silver hair shimmering. "No turning back," she said softly. "Only forward, only together." The cockpit fell silent again, the hum of the chains growing louder, pulsing like a heartbeat. Elias felt the weight of the moment pressing down on him. Every instinct screamed danger, but his soul whispered something else. Maybe fate had brought them together for a reason. He took a step closer, his eyes locked on hers. "I don't know if I trust you," he said, "but I know I don't have a choice." Lyra's lips curved into the faintest smile, her chains glowing brighter. "Sometimes," she whispered, "choice is not about trust, but survival." The chains blazed with violent light, filling the cockpit with a glow brighter than the stars outside. Elias staggered back, his chest burning as if fire was crawling through his veins. Lyra stood before him, her silver hair flowing like liquid. Light, her golden eyes locked on his. "This is the moment," she whispered, her voice both fierce and trembling. "Once begun, there is no retreat. Captain, our lives will either join or end together." Elias's heart pounded, his mind screaming to stop. But the ache in his chest told him he had already waited too long. The chain was eating at his life faster now. Every breath sharp with pain, he clenched his fists, his voice rough. "Do it," he said. "If this is the only way, then do it now." Lyra raised her chained hands, the cuffs glowing so bright they seared his eyes. She whispered words in her ancient tongue, the sound heavy, filled with power. The air itself seemed to bend, the ship groaning, lights flickering. Elias felt the heat surge into his chest, spreading through every nerve. His body shook, sweat poured down his face. He gasped as if drowning in fire. Then, suddenly, the pain was not only his. Through the bond, he felt Lyra's own suffering, her own struggle, her breath shuddering, her heart pounding, her soul trembling. They were separate. No longer her pain was his, and his strength was hers for the first time. He understood what she meant by bond. The chains screamed, sparks bursting as the metal cracked. One cuff shattered, glowing shards scattering into the air like broken stars. Lyra cried out, falling to her knees. But Elias caught her before she hit the floor. Her golden eyes burned into his, filled with both pain and gratitude. "Do not let go," she whispered. "If you let go, we both die." Elias held her tighter. Fighting the storm raging inside his body, the bond pulled at him, demanding his will, demanding his soul. He gritted his teeth, forcing every ounce of strength into her hands, into her heart. The second cuff shattered, bursting into flames that vanished into nothing. Light consumed the cockpit, flooding every shadow, Elias cried out, his body shaking, and then silence. The glow faded. The hum of the chains was gone. The air was still. The ship quiet. Elias opened his eyes slowly. His chest no longer heavy. The pain gone. Before him knelt Lyra, no longer bound, her wrists free, her skin glowing with new light. Her silver hair shone brighter than ever, her golden eyes radiant. She rose slowly, no longer a prisoner, no longer chained. Her presence filled the room like fire and starlight. Powerful yet calm. Elias felt it inside him, tooth a bond, alive and strong. His heart beat with hers, his breath steady with hers. He was no longer only himself, he was part of her. Lyra looked at him, her eyes soft. "It is done," she said. Her voice gentle. "You are bound to me, Captain, and I to you. The chains can no longer take us." Elias let out a breath he didn't know he was holding. For the first time since the day he received her, the weight was gone, but before relief could settle, the ship's alarm blared. The radar lit up with dozens of signals, far larger than Hunter's. An entire fleet closing in fast. Lyra's expression darkened, her eyes hardening like steel. "They felt it," she whispered. "They felt the chains break, and now they come. The ones who forged them. The true enemy." Elias's stomach sank. "You mean? This isn't over?" Lyra shook her head, her silver hair shimmering. "No. Captain, this was only the beginning. Breaking the chains has awakened them. They will not stop until I am theirs again. Or destroyed." Elias stared at the fleet closing in, the sheer number overwhelming. His ship was small, his weapons weak, but for the first time he did not feel hopeless. The bond thrummed inside him, filling him with strange warmth. He looked at Lyra, her golden eyes fierce with determination. Together, they were stronger than before. "Then let them come," Elias said, his voice steady. Lyra's lips curved into a faint smile. "Yes," she whispered. "Let them come." The fleet loomed. Closer, shadows against the stars. Elias gripped the controls. Lyra stood beside him. No longer a chained prize, but a queen reborn. Their hearts beat as one, their fates tied forever.